This is Recruiting Unfiltered. He's a Division I player.
Committed for suicide, basically.
We're going to cover the full gamut. The roster limits actually become a detriment.
High school athletes need to really open their eyes.
We are here to talk everything recruiting. Recruiting Unfiltered.
Welcome back, everybody, to Recruiting Unfiltered. I am here today with Coach Larry Taryn and our special guest, who is the one, the only, Coach Mandi Balduf, who is about to bring so much good knowledge for you guys. I'm so excited. How you doing, Coach Mandi?
I am better than I ever deserve, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I have got some really good questions. And now with softball summer recruiting, it's about to kick off. Like next weekend is kind of the big kickoff weekend. And one thing, we talked about showcases last week, but another big part of summer in recruiting is camping, or at least that's what people think. So what is your opinion on the summer camps? How many should we be going to? And I'll break this down, but are you a fan of summer camping?
Man, that's such a loaded question because it really varies depending on your grad year, right? Like if we're young, this is going to be different. This is going to be a different conversation for my it's eighth graders and freshmen and maybe potentially sophomores than it is my going into juniors and seniors, right? So I do like some summer camping, but I it's not kind of the heavy camp time for my kids. I actually prefer the winter and fall for camps. So summer camping, man, you can really run these kids ragged, right? I mean, we got camps before tournaments, we got camps in the middle of the week. So I mean, it really it's going to depend on for me. It's going to depend on the grad year, right?
So is there a such thing as too much camping?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right? Like if we're playing every weekend and then we're camping before and after that, by the end of the second or third week, we're going to be wore out.
Yeah.
Right? Wore out. I know from personal experience, well, especially now that I'm like a has-been, but during the playing time, you're playing, 3, 4, 5 games a day during the summer, right? And 3 days a week going hard, and then trying to pull in camps on top of that. You're exhausted, and there's no way that you can put your best self in front of the college coaches every single time. There's just no way.
You're absolutely right. And not just physically tired, but mentally.
Absolutely. Larry, go.
Well, it just something Mandi does that I really love is especially on her fall and winter camps is she makes these posts about camping is an investment, and it's really cool that the kids understand that they're not it's not going to be if you go to the camp on college campuses, you're going to have the opportunity to meet those coaches personally, to see those coaches, to have them pull you out of a drill, to work with you, to talk to you, that sort of thing. And it is that investment of that time to use it wisely, to go to the camps that are in your pond that you need to be fishing in. And I really like those posts, Mandi. I just think the kids need to understand that camping is not just going to have fun. It is there's a purpose behind why you go to camp.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I mean, Rachel, from a coaching perspective, I mean, I don't know if everybody knows that I used to coach, college softball for 15 years. I know exactly what camps are about, right? Right. We know it is to supplement the income of my assistant coaches. It is to help pay for equipment. So in the big scheme of things, if we scan out on a macro level, it is all about raising money, raising funds.
You're
right?
absolutely correct.
I'm not bringing kids in to identify them at camp, right? And honestly, for me, guys, when I was a coach, if I'm recruiting you, I don't need you at camp. I already seen what I need to see when I've watched you, play all summer long, and I've seen you through your spring season. I might bring you to camp only as for a campus tour, right? Set up kind of an official visit, so to speak, or an unofficial visit. It's I'm not there. If I really like you, I don't need you at camp.
That 100%. And I want to tell a quick story because as an athlete, when I was in college at Troy, I worked these camps, right? The players were part of the working staff of these camps, and we would have team meetings prior to a camp starting. And our coach would say, okay, we have 75 players coming today. These two we are recruiting, and I need you to make these two feel special. Out of the 75, two were being recruited, and those two, our job was to make them feel special. Our job was to make them want to come to Troy. Okay. And so that's what we did during the camp. We gave them an extra rep. We gave them some extra love. We, joked around with them a little bit more. Those two knew that they were different.
Right. And I think back it up. How did you guys know they were already recruits on campus? Right. There had been some things happening in the recruiting process before that. Like, it's not just show up and now boom, all of a sudden this coach knows about you. If you're a legit recruit at campus, Larry, we've already talked to these kids. We've already emailed, we've had phone calls, we've had Zoom meetings. I've seen them play, I've seen video. So now when they get to camp, right, we know who the recruits are at camp versus everybody else, the 75. So the other 73 were moneymakers.
Right. And so many families don't really understand that when you get a camp invite with from your travel ball coach or your high school coach, or a college coach has come in and left a bunch of flyers or pamphlets for camp, you're not getting recruited by those colleges. You're revenue for those colleges. And again, my experience was a long, long time ago, but it was still the same concept when we were GAing and stuff. Is you brought the kids into camp, you made them have fun, you gave them a 10th on their 40 time, to kind of beef them up a little bit, But we knew the kids that we were actually recruiting and the kids that we actually wanted to get true metrics and true measurements on, so we can make the determination as if we're going to move them through the process. And and that was in 1985, and it's still going on today.
It ain't changed. Yeah, that ain't changing, right? For me, like, if I really needed a kid at camp, Larry, it wasn't going to come in an email. It wasn't going to come on some pretty little letterhead. That was going to come from me calling. That was going to be from me texting or having a conversation with their travel coach or their high school coach. Or now as a scout, that's what coaches are doing. They're reaching out saying, hey, can you make sure, X, Y, and Z are at camp this week? So it's not going to come from these pretty little letterheads, right? That are, man, that it's that time of the year where those are being sent out, mass sent out, right? So
Right.
I think it's important for families to understand what those are and also what those are not. These emails that these kids get, and they're personalized, right? They get their name right, right? It's this nice letterhead. Those are not personal invites. That is a mass sent email. That
Yes.
is a mass sent letterhead, even if it goes to your high school. That is not a direct invite. What that actually is, that's a third party company. And it hurts my heart. Like, I hate to have to tell families, hey, that's not really of interest from that school, right? But here's your sign, folks. Like, if you're getting 5, 6, 7 of these that look exactly the same, when you open it up, you can read through it. It almost sounds verbatim. That should be your sign, guys, that, listen, your kids are worthy and valued. That's not going to change. But that doesn't mean that this school even has them on their recruiting board. Like, how do I know, Larry? Because I was a coach. I've done that. I've had to sell my database of players to these companies in order to help offset costs in my program. Right? I've been paid as a college coach to go sit at tournaments and showcases or even camps to be there. Right? Like, I'm there to make money. I'm not necessarily there to find and identify a kid.
You bring up a great point that a lot of families miss too, Mandi, is at these showcases, if they have the 1-day camp at the showcases and they do all the advertising out there that coaches, ABC's college going to be there, all this list of coaches. Really those coaches, to be honest with the families, they're not there to recruit kids. They're not there to identify kids. They're there because they're getting paid.
I got paid to sit at a field for 4 hours, right? Every day for 5 days at a certain field I had to be at. And then after those 4 hours were done, Larry, I'm in my car and I'm jetting over to actually see the kids who I already had identified. That's who I'm there to evaluate. So yes, these tournaments and camps can say, coaches from X, Y, and Z and ABC are going to be there. Well, yes, but that doesn't mean that any exposure, any showcase is going on.
And another thing that happens, coach, is in my world, I've seen athletes get camp invites where they cap the camp at like 10 kids or 20 kids, but the coach has called the athlete and told them, "I need you at this camp." That's an identification camp right there.
Yeah, that's a completely different that is legit, recruitment.
Right, right. And they, by rule, they have to advertise it, but they cap it and show that it's capped. And these kids are going to that camp as an invite, as a prospect to be evaluated, to be moved through the process. It just it's that time of year, coach, and all of this stuff is going on. There's no telling how much money these families are spending with travel ball and hopes of getting to these showcases and these camps to get evaluated by a coach. We were talking the other day, Rachel and I, about a former Division I coach saying in 25 years of coaching softball, going to camps, going to clinics, doing those things, they've identified 2 kids that were not on their pre-camp roster to look at. 2 that were just, hitting massive bombs or throwing, high velocity on the mound or in the circle. So, it's just parents need to be careful, and they need to seek the advice of people who have been down this road.
They do, because one camp is not a one size fits all. Also because your teammates or your friends are going, that has nothing to do with your recruitment. That doesn't even mean that camp fits, your pond to be fishing in, so to speak. So I get asked all the time. It's probably the biggest question I'm receiving right now from families and families who aren't mine. Right? They're asking, what camp should we go to? That's kind of a loaded question because for me, Larry, it really depends on where are you at with that particular school.
Right.
Right? Like it's not just throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and we'll just see what sticks, because she's interested in ABC college. Like we've got to make sure, Larry, that has this kid had conversations? Does she fit the identification stage for these coaches? Have they evaluated her? Because when we have our kids go to camp, we want them to go as a recruit. We want those coaches to already have known about them and so that they're in a completely different stage. So for me, the young ones, man, we can kind of dream a little bit, right? Like we can let them dream a little bit. And I even say to those young ones, pick 2 Division 1s, pick 2 Division 2s, pick a couple D3s, pick a couple NAIs, maybe even pick a couple junior colleges and get a feel for all the different levels, regardless of name, right? Regardless of level. Let's go see what we look like at these camps, what these camps, let them kind of get a feel for all the different divisions versus later on when we're in our junior, senior year. Now we should be really camping with some more institutions.
Right. And you make a great point. If the younger athletes, they go to these camps, they're exposed to that dream school, and it gives them the opportunity to really see what an athlete that is in that level looks like. And, it helps them define their own box a little bit more where they do fish in the right ponds moving forward.
Absolutely. And I think, people, again, they think it's just going to camp, right? Like I'm just going to sign up and go to camp and reactively I'm going to wait for something to happen. And what they don't realize is the kids who are legitly at a camp as a recruit, Larry, they're doing things before camp. Right?
Yep.
There's a slew of protocol, there's a slew of things that should be happening before that camp. And then when we get to camp, man, I'm advising my kids on things to do and how to act and how to present themselves at camp and things that they need to do before they leave that camp. And then there's an after camp protocol. Right? There's things that these kids have to do after camp. So it's not just the act of let's go to camp. Let's just sign up and go to camps. That's putting a blindfold on and literally trying to throw a dart at a dartboard. We're not even hitting the dartboard, let alone the bullseye, because we have no idea what we're shooting for.
There was a rule change recently that allowed, well, the Division II recruiting calendar basically went away. But they allowed them to do some tryouts at at D2 and D3 levels. Is that correct, Mandy? Am I?
Yes, you can do a tryout. It has to be out of season, but yes, you could still do a tryout with D3s and D2s, and it's got to be a certain. I believe you have to be a junior or into your senior year, but there certainly are the possibilities of those.
So if you get if a coach calls you and says, "Hey, we want you here on that day for that event," that's something you might want to pay attention to.
Oh, absolutely. Again, because that coach called you and you've had this relationship built with them. So if they need you, it's not going to come from those emails and those letters. Yes, that coach is going to call or text you and say, hey, I need you at this particular event for me.
Great stuff, Mandy. Great stuff. I'm learning stuff. And it's folks. It's this time of year, and showcases and camps are going on. We're about to start doing metrics combines for athletes all over the country, getting real verifiable metrics. The cruel and honest part of that, Mandy, sometimes is these kids have been working out with their trainers and doing all these things, but when they get up there in front of 3 radar guns, or they get over there with the laser timers on the home to first, it's a humbling experience sometimes. But it is really important to get verified metrics. Isn't it though?
Absolutely. I mean, coaches are looking for, those are quantifiable things that coaches are looking for, and they want a trusted source with those.
Mm-hmm. Well, good deal. Well, listen, y'all. Hey, Recruiting Unfiltered. I'm Larry Perrin. That's Coach Mandi Balduf. Mandi is the area director for Illinois and Missouri. She's got athletes all over the country, though, y'all. And we appreciate you, Mandi, coming on board today and visiting with us, kind of helping shed some light on the camp situation a little bit more. And y'all, if you have any questions about that, be sure to reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with Coach Mandi if need be, so she can answer your questions. And y'all have a great day. Again, Recruiting Unfiltered. Stay tuned next week. We've got a surprise guest coming on, so we'll let you know how that goes as we move closer to that date. So y'all have a great day.